Hello, everyone from the comic and manga world. My name is Hector,
And my name is G.
and we are here to talk to you about art picks from the April 18th FOC. So, for those of you who don't know, G and I work for Penguin Random House. We manage sales into the direct comic book market around the world. So, the books that we talk about here are part of those titles that we can sell into the market. So, let's get started. The first one is one of my picks, The Green Hen and Other Stories by Nicole Clavelou. And it has an introduction by Daniel Close and translated from French by Donald Nicholson Smith. This comes out in hardcover and in trade paperback on November 28th. This is a collection of some of Nicole Clavelou's short stories. Uh, and it's the first time that was done in the 1970s. And it's the first time they've been published in English. And I have seen a lot of illustrations by Nicole Clavelou, especially because I'm a huge fan of Alice in Wonderland. And she did sort of her version of Through the Looking Glass. And this book collects some of her stories, which are basically they're fairy tales, but they're very strange. They have uh, plants that talk, a bird that you see here there that's depressed. It has it's sort of it has like that grim feel to it, that Brothers Grimm feel to it in a more contemporary sense, obviously contemporary for the 1970s. And the art is so beautiful and haunting and very weird and beautiful at the same time. So I'm really excited about this book. Oh, and it some of this black and white too. So it's something that I'm really excited about. I mentioned to you in conversations how much I love European, especially French graphic novels and comics. So this is right up my alley. So
That black and
this
white image it stands out.
I know
It's really nice.
because it has a lot of details, but also has a lot of like the way she plays with the shades is
Yeah.
amazing. It's
It's
amazing, and the
beautiful.
lights and all that, the shadow and lights. It's amazing. Yeah, and little devil on the shoulder. Um, so okay, so that's it. That's one, and then I have another one. Oh, I forgot to mention. Sorry, and it's very important. This is from New York Review Books and New York Review Comics, which is an imprint within that, and they do uh, obviously beautiful editions of books like this. So this definitely going to be a very beautiful edition. And then the next one is actually from IDW Publishing. It's called Yellow Cab. It's also French. It's uh, it's the adaptation into graphic novel of the novel by Benoit Cohen uh, and Christopher Chaboutier is the illustrator. It's called Yellow Cab. It's 1999 trade paperback, goes on sale May 17th. And I found this story is very intriguing because it's a memoir of Benoit Cohen, who is a filmmaker, French filmmaker who moved to New York, and for 2 decades he was had been producing and creating TV shows, and movies, and he all of a sudden got tired of it and said, "You know what? I want to live a real life with a real job." And you see that scene here telling his friend, "It's like I want a real life with a real job, like being a waiter or something." So he becomes a cab driver in New York, and the story takes us through the whole process, not of just him deciding to become a cab driver and become a cab driver, but also like everything he has to do to get a license. Uh, and then it goes into the stories of him being a cab driver on a day-to-day basis and how cab drivers are viewed in New York, but they're so essential at the same time, and how people either love him or hate him, and how it is a very tough life, but it's also he feels like it's very fulfilling in a way. And it's like if you're a New Yorker and you love New York, it's the best way to really see New York because you're there out there all the time. So it's a very intriguing story that I really am looking forward to read. It's another one that has been translated to French for the first time. So it's another one that I recommend and I definitely wanna read. Can't wait to read
So what I've
this.
really noticed about the art is like when you think of New York, you think dense in terms of like
Oh yeah.
being closed in and claustrophobic because of the buildings and like every all of the buildings around you. But the art here is like almost as if it's open. Like the
Yeah,
buildings
yeah.
are not there. It's like a white background. It's like
Obviously
a sense of
this is
like
by the river and
well,
obviously it's
it's
a little bit
that,
different, but yeah, but I get that. Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very open like, even, like, the streets, like, we don't see the it's, like, a clear white,
Yeah. Hmm.
white ground. It's almost as if it gives a sense of, like,
Which is not like New York.
introspection and,
Yeah.
like, because of what you're saying, it's him going through I don't know,
Yeah.
it's very, like, in the head. I feel like it's maybe isolated. It kind of
Yeah.
feels
Well,
lonely the way that it looks.
and it's also as a person who who has traveled to New York but never lived in New York, I could
Mm.
tell you. And when we're talking about New York, we're talking about obviously Manhattan. That's what really we talk a lot. Like that's the vision that we get a
Mhm.
lot, and maybe Queens and all that, but the boroughs, but mostly it's Manhattan, and it's you could. I'm very intrigued by the love that New Yorkers have of New York,
Mhm.
especially because a lot of the times you hear New Yorkers who weren't born in New York, but they call themselves New Yorker and they're proud of it, which is great. And it's such a pride on the city. And there's such a love for the city, which I mean, I had chances in a couple times during my life to move there, and I think I would have been the same.
Mhm.
Um, I mean I don't regret it and I don't either way, but I think it's very intriguing to me to see it um and to have that, especially because it's such a New York is so different from any city in the world. I mean, you can compare it to try to compare it to something like Paris or Tokyo, and you can't. And of course, Tokyo is the same thing when you talk about Tokyo and Paris, the same thing, and London, they're very very different. Um, but I think my connection also to Manhattan is because somebody once told me that it feels very claustrophobic, and it's because it's an island, and I'm so connected to islands because I was born on one. But yeah, so but I understand what you're saying. It is also yeah, I think this is definitely which is interesting because the author wasn't the one who drew this. It was somebody else. But I think it's reflective of what he's talking about and his view of what New York is, but definitely the street and the pavement, it's not that clean in New York.
Yeah.
Like white wouldn't be the first color to come to mind when talking
Y
about,
New
New
York,
York
like, I feel like it was
sidewalks.
purposely done. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
the way that it's like, the background is just
Yeah.
disintegrated, and
Like
that's
it's
not
a
the focus.
very
Yeah.
romanticized
Mhm.
version of it, but at the same time, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like that it's the silhouettes on here. You can't really see their faces. Great. So next one is your
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, next one is my pick. I'm a terminal cancer patient, but I'm fine by Nana, and this goes on sale on November 1st by Seven Seas. Uh, this pretty much intrigued me because the creator here, after being diagnosed with terminal colon cancer, basically they decided to document their journey in this memoir, and she draws herself as a rabbit in a world of humans and hospitals. And this memoir, although like it's a very serious topic, it's really meant to instill positivity and perseverance despite the struggles. And you could really see, like, because she's portraying herself as a rabbit, like how foreign it feels, like how distant she is from like the rest of what's happening around her. And I mean, I saw this as like an immediate pick for me. And quite weirdly enough, I don't read a lot of memoirs, except if it's in graphic or comic format, because I
Yeah.
tend to gravitate towards that because I don't know, there's something about the images that also contributes to the storytelling that draws me in. And so, yep, one of my picks for this week.
Yeah, I definitely want to read this, and it looks so beautiful. And obviously, that I love the title. I mean, manga titles tend to be very direct, and this one is is no exception, of
Mhm.
course. But I also love that you can from we don't even have the dialogue, the text on here yet, but we can definitely see the emotion and the drama that's in the panels from the illustrations. Like
Mhm.
this is, and then I mean on me on the personal side because I've been touched by my family and relatives with cancer. Um, I definitely want to read this, and it's gonna be tough to read, but it's one of those things that yeah, I
Mhm.
think I'm gonna relate to a lot. Very cool. Great pick. So now we go to from something like the first three were a little bit darker, more serious, and now we go not that they're not serious, but we go into the more
The
lighter side.
Thor.
We got Thor with his hammer, swinging his hammer, and it's this Thor 25, which is an edition that everybody's waiting for. This is continuing the run by Danny Cates, and it's still continuing the story of crossover with Hulk, which is also written by Danny Cates at this time. And I have two covers that there's a lot of covers for this one, and I love them all. But this one I really enjoyed. It's Thor 25 by J. Scott Campbell. And there's also a very virgin version of this cover. Um, I love this. It's a very classic Thor pose, Thor look, Thor everything. And I love how the mighty Thor is the text is right behind him, sort of entangled with his cape, and the lightning and the Mjolnir is just swinging. So it's perfect image of Thor, I think. And then the next one is the Chrysosulo variant, and I love Chrysosulo's art. And this one is extremely cool, and it connects to I believe it's Hulk 6, which is the next issue in the storyline, and it has Hulk on the other side, and you can tell that it's going to be somebody else on the other side of that image, on the left side. And this one is also very beautiful, and still it's not less classic than the other one. This is more of a lighter one, I guess. I don't know how to describe it really, but it's more colorful, more brighter. It's brighter than the other one, but it's still very beautiful. So, and these are my two picks, and then we go to your pick.
Yes, my pick is Silk issue number 5. This is Wu Young's variant, and this I saw this like when it was first revealed. I was
Yeah,
immediately drawn to it. It actually like stirred up um a lot of people in Korea were looking at this because for obvious reasons. This is a motif based off of on the next slide you'll see based off of an art piece done in the 18th century by a painter who is from the Joseon dynasty. So you can see the influences there. And this has to be an immediate pickup, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah,
I mean, I've been following the Silk run, but this for sure, such a beautiful cover image.
yeah. And I love that you have the two guys in the corner, which I didn't realize they're peeping, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, but on the covers, it's Green Goblin and Mysterio.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and also, I mean, I like that 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 Peter Parker and Miles Morales are the ones washing their clothes in the river,
In the river,
and
yeah.
they're actually washing their own costumes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
their own suits. And then you see Silk, and you also see Gwen there up there. playing with her very, very extra long hair. Wait, is there somebody with a? Oh yeah, there's somebody playing with her braids on this one too.
Yep, on that one
So
too.
it's amazing how they how everything was sort of adapted to the other
Exactly.
one.
To this. This
It's
is
very
so
cool.
cool.
It
It's
is very
so
cool.
cool.
And it's beautiful. It's not just like sometimes they do adaptations and they're just like, oh yeah, and it's a cheap adaptation. It's good. This is a very beautiful piece of art too. And
Mhm.
that background looks amazing and it's just all the detail that went into it. It's amazing, which I wish it would have been a wraparound because I've kind of feel like I want more of this art.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I can see that.
Maybe Wuna Jung should do like make it a thing where it keeps uh doing other adaptations of very classic art that
Mhm.
way. Very cool. And then that's it for our picks this week. And then on the side of news, yesterday it was announced by IDW that they're coming out with their IDW Originals line, and it's going to start in July, starting with Dark Spaces Wildfire by Scott Snyder and Hayden Sherman. And here are the titles that have been announced now, and they run all the way till next year. There are some really cool stories in here. Um, I love that more original content is coming to comics. The more original, I mean, I love the classics and I love classic characters and all that, but I also enjoy it that the lore and the mythology of comics keeps growing with new stories and new characters.
I
So I'm
like what
really, really
they're
excited about this.
Yeah, and I really like what they're doing in terms of pairing these very well-known names like Snyder, for instance, with up and coming creators and uplifting
Yep.
those people into the spotlight here with these very interesting stories. If you read through the premise of these,
Yeah.
so I'm very excited for these.
Yeah, and we don't have time right now to go through all the stories. We'll definitely talk about these comics when the FOCs come around, but
Mhm.
we encourage everybody to go online and look up the description of these comics. But as you can see by the covers, it's a very diverse group of stories, which is great too.
Mhm.
It's good to see. Great. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much. Please visit us not just on this on the YouTube channel and like our videos, but also go to our social media, to our Instagram and Facebook, which is PRH International Comics. And I just need to mention that any comics that G and I have made during this video are our own and in no way reflect the opinions of Penguin Random House, its imprints, or its distribution clients. And that's it. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Everyone.